Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Cowboy Bebop. Last time on Cowboy Bebop we had Honky Tonk Women. Interesting title for an interesting character that was introduced. Faye Valentine. What does she do? I'm not really sure. I guess she had a lot of debts, and she had a guy who was going to clear her debts if she could get a chip for him. That caused her to run into Spike and Jet, who detained her for a little bit, and then they were going to sell her, and then they were going to turn her in for her bounty, and then they were going to turn in the chip, and eventually basically shenanigans happened. They got the chip, but it was worthless at that point, and she stole the money, and she flew off. So yeah, it was an interesting set of events, and yeah, pretty much an interesting introduction to Faye Valentine, a sort of a rival, but kind of, a very, just an interesting sort of rival for Spike. So yeah, that's pretty much where we were. Like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comments for your viewing pleasure, so let's go ahead and jump right into this session of Cowboy Bebop. Here we go. Well, I mean, they've figured out how to survive on no money, so I guess it makes sense to stay with them. They sometimes have food and sometimes have fuel, so yeah, guess she's gonna stay with them. Just don't walk in on her when she's taking a shower. Oh well. Okay. Well, that was interesting. I feel like a bit of a different episode. Last episode we were just talking about the status quo and, I don't want to say like formulaic episodes, but this one, different. I like it. So, first off, we've left Mars. We've left that behind for Ganymede orbiting Jupiter, which is pretty cool. And I gotta say, just seeing that establishing shot, seeing, whatever, I guess the buildings or city on the Sea of Ganymede. You see, the sun in the distance, and you see Jupiter overhanging. I love that. I love that so much. Like, I literally, and this is going to sound stupid, but I literally will have dreams about that, They're kind of weird, I will admit, because I'm on Earth and there's like, sometimes I'll have a dream where I'm like in my backyard and there's another Earth in the sky. It's kind of weird, but I like that imagery. So this is like just everything I want in space imagery, And honestly, like, I mean, I don't know if I really mentioned this in the first episode, but I've had ideas for shows that are basically just this, without having seen Cowboy Bebop. Just a crew going around, to different crazy places in space, I've had 2 ideas for shows about that, And so to just see that actually being a thing is just, I love it so much, But yeah, Ganymede with the Space Warriors. Eco-terrorists, even though they don't like to be called that, so the Space Warriors, I guess they were just a normal sort of activist group, and then they just turned violent. Well, when some people joined, they turned violent. So, yeah, interesting stuff. And they have this whole thing, the mother, I must say, that's such a distinctive, like, look. It reminds me, what's the name of the villain in Emperor's New Groove? Why can't I think of that? I don't know, maybe I'll look that up real quick. But she kind of reminds me of that, Yzma. That was it. Yzma. Yeah, definitely reminds me of that. Or even just a sort of old school Disney villain, Like, just one of those strange, lanky kind of villains, But I like that. It was definitely a great design, and just some annoying. That's if there's one thing I hate, but in a way that you're supposed to, I hate super overconfident villains that just the entire time, like, they're just, with just this smug look like, oh, well, you're going to let me go at some point because I've already beaten you. I'm already 10,000 steps ahead of where you are. And it's like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Because you know who was actually 10,001 steps ahead? Spike Spiegel. Because Spike put the virus back, gave the virus back to her, and thus it, I guess, turned them into monkeys. So is that it? That it turns them into monkeys? See, what I thought it was, I thought it was something like it kills humans, basically, but it seems to just return them to being monkeys, which is kind of strange. At least that's what happened with her son, Harrison. That seems to be what happened to him, but I don't know. It's one of those. Either way, it's not good. It's not good for the population of Ganymede. So yeah. So that was interesting. And then we get Faye back in this one. I kind of thought that while I figured that Faye would be sticking around, I honestly thought they would sort of keep this up a little while of just we keep kind of running into her, but no. Now she has just joined the crew because they seem to have some fuel and some food, and that's better than where she was at the beginning of this episode. But I like that. I will say, if there is one sort of element of a status quo that continues, is that they are always poor. And I kind of like that. It's kind of funny that it's like, no matter what, they can never, like, they're always scraping by. They keep going after really high targets, but they can never, follow through on that. And I like that. And I like that even now extends to Faye, who's, she got all that money from last episode and lost it all on gambling, Like, that is just hilarious. So, I really like that. And yeah, so that was really interesting. And of course, she's begging people on the streets, in orbit of Jupiter. It's like, oh, can you just help me get to Ganymede and stuff? And of course, the people that actually respond to her are Spike and Jet, So that was really funny. And then they just chain her up. So yeah, that was interesting. And then eventually she gets out and chains up Ein instead. We don't even know how she did that, She just did somehow. But I like that. She's a very interesting character. I like her. And yeah, she gets out and then she goes in to help, Like, oh, well, we'll split the reward 60-40, 60-40, but I get the 60, And they're like, oh, fine, but, it's like, well, we have to get the reward, so we have to save. In order to get any reward, we have to stop these things, and they're desperate enough. But then, no, they don't get the reward because they did not succeed. They ended up closing up the hyperspace lane, basically. So I like how they also mentioned that hyperspace is like another plane of reality, basically, or just a different version, So that's really interesting. So instead of like Star Wars, where it's like, well, every ship has a hyperdrive, or in Star Trek, every ship has a warp drive, and you just go. It's you specifically have to take these, I guess, hyperspace lanes in order to travel vast distances, which is interesting. So, a ship is just a ship, but if you want to travel a great distance, you have to use these specific lanes, which I guess is more of a, I mean, you could, maybe if you sort of compare it to real life, I was about to just compare it to a highway, and you could kind of say that, although the car, there's nothing special about the highway for your car. Like, it doesn't make your car go fast. I mean, you can go faster, depending on speed limits, but at the same time, it's like, well, a highway is just a, almost straight line, just a straighter line than, taking back roads or something all the way. But then, I guess it could be more like, well, if you're driving around, on the highway and stuff like that, and then you get to one of the coasts, and then it's like, well, you know, you can drive your car onto this, you know, ferry or this freighter or whatever, and we'll ferry your car across, you know, a lake or river or an ocean, what have you. So I guess it could be more like that, like, you know, your car cannot get across this ocean, but you can get your car into this and it will take your car across the ocean. And that's kind of how I see the hyperspace lanes. And then just the whole thing of, you know, you can still see things in the hyperspace lane, but you can't interact with them because they're basically on different planes of reality, is how he put it. So that was interesting. And then, yeah, just the whole thing of they ended up getting hit by their own virus, and they never showed the monkey, but I think that's what they were getting at, that it actually turns you into a monkey, you know, at least from what they showed of Harrison. So, and that's giving me some, you know, Full Metal Alchemist flashbacks right there, you know, seeing some chimera basically. But anyway, but yeah, so that was really interesting. And yeah, just a good villain. And I like, again, at the end, even though, you know, Spike and Jet and Faye, they did all of this to save the day, they get no reward. They are dirt poor. The only thing anyone has gained from this is Faye has now gained a place to live, basically. Well, gained, more like taken a place to live. She's sort of forced her way onto here. Like, well, I might as well just stick with these guys. They have a ship, they have some food, I should just stick with them, you know? And Jet, he's like, you know what, I'm not even going to argue with that girl. She's made up her mind, I'm just going to let it go. Spike, you know, Spike has a few words, but save your words for after she takes a shower. So, yeah. So, good stuff overall. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see where we're going next time now that Faye is a part of the crew. So yeah, that is basically it. With all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of my Cowboy Bebop reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.